That's straightened out.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our work session for the Board of Trustees for the Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District. I do ask if we can bow here for a moment of silent prayer. Amen. Colleagues, you all have before you your agenda that we will use as a guide. And we will turn it over to Mr. Brooks.
Approval of the board meeting minutes for August.
Let's go back to number 3, if that's okay, Mr. Brooks. The policy updates. I know that we had a number of policies that MSBA shared with us to have those policies updated. I believe Attorney Palmer, working with Ms. Rimmer, were asked to make sure that we updated our policies to reflect the recommendations by MSBA. I just want to make sure that that has taken place. Okay. Also, Attorney Palmer, there was a policy regarding years of experience, I believe. I don't know the exact policy, but many of my colleagues here on the board, with the exception of Coach Fant, are aware that the board had a lengthy discussion regarding years of experience for employees. For example, if someone was a teacher in the previous Greenwood Public or LaFleur County district, when they started teaching in our district, once it consolidated, those years of experience, I don't know what the policy says, may or may not carry over as it pertains to their salary. So if I taught for 5 years, when I start in this newly consolidated district, those 5 years should have followed me. So when you have a chance, could you kind of look into that if you have not already, to kind of just give us some guidance?
Mr. President, I have had a chance to review that policy, and I'll be prepared to make any presentation that the board deems it necessary for any explanation that it needs.
Colleagues, would you all like to hear from Attorney Palmer at this time, or wait until the board meeting? Is that fine, Ms. Abraham? So, Attorney Palmer.
So, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
So in essence, Dr. Bailey did email me about the concern that he just expressed. Based upon what the policy says as well as state law, and I did look at some Attorney General's opinions also to supplement the research that I did. If there is a teacher who served in, let's say, the predecessor districts of our consolidated district, or they transferred from another public school district, and the law even contemplates private as well, they should get credit for any years of service that they've previously served. The statute says that if they serve 6 months during the course of their work experience as a teacher, then that would count as 1 year of experience. The law also says that if a person has served as a teacher for a partial year, those partial years could be added up to make up 9 months and convert to a year's experience as well. So those are the two things that were fleshed out as a part of the research that I was able to do.
So when you have a chance, could you just kind of look into if the same would be applicable to, just say, principals, office managers, clerks, administrative assistants, things of that nature?
So the statute as well as the policy is very clear. Teaching experience is teaching experience. If you are an assistant teacher, that does not qualify you for the purposes of certified teaching experience and get credit accordingly. And there are some other examples. There's very few exceptions in the law that would allow a person to get credit. But the easiest way for me to explain it is administrative experience is administrative experience. If you've been teaching for 20 years and then you become an administrator the next year, you're administrator ground level. You don't get credit for the 20 years of teaching experience.
Any other?
What people are getting mixed up, they are thinking that they're losing years, but those years are in terms. So I think if we move forward to let people know that your years are in terms, you don't lose, because those years, those days, that's money. You don't lose that. That is down there in terms. So they will have a better, I guess, reflective information on the years that you served in the state.
And that's correct, Dr. Moore. And you know, with that point being made, for PERS conversation, you can do different things under the PERS system and get credit year to year. That's a totally different calculation from an experience standpoint than teaching experience.
Colleagues online, are you all able to hear us? I do see Dr. Malone and Mr. Phillips and Ms. Griffin. Are you all able to hear us? Okay, all right.
Yes, sir, we do.
All right. Mr. Brooks, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Moore, as to what you were saying, I think most of the people that I've talked to realize that PERS is not affected with this. But we have some employees that came over here from Greenwood Public Schools, like in the business office, with 20 years experience in the business office. And when they got over here, they started out with 0 experience. Then you have people coming in from other places, starting out making more than them and entitled to get raises every year, and they're not entitled to get a raise until sometime in the future. I think that's the main concern. Ms. Thomas, am I right?
Yes, when they moved them back after consolidation, it took everybody to the consolidated years. So everybody that's pretty much in my department, if they were on 14 or 15, they're stuck for the next 10, 11, 12, 13 years without a raise, because they can't move up on the scale because they were previously on step 15, but now they're back to 4.
So, Attorney Palmer, is that something that you can look into and advise the board when you have time? When you have time?
So let me just, if I may, address this. So one of the things that also was pointed out in the research that I did is that the board determines the scales per whatever division, if you will, within the district. So if a person comes from district to another district, there could be a gap as compared to what they came from versus what they came into now. And a person, the board or the district cannot pay someone more than what the scale dictates. Otherwise, you end up getting into some issues.
Any other questions or concerns, colleagues? And just 2 other policies when your schedule permits. Recently, we've had a lot of discussion about facility use, rentage, EBH, which is the school facility rental, EBAH, which is use of school property. And the reason I ask is, as I indicated recently, we've had a lot of discussion about that. And I do know that some time ago, the board did authorize Greenwood Little Theater to utilize the facilities at no cost. So So when you have time, could you also look at that contract about the termination language there within, in the event we need to revisit that?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, colleagues? Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Approval of board minutes meetings.
Attorney Palmer, you'll have opportunity to review the minutes for accuracy. Colleagues, any questions?
The interim superintendent recommends school board approval for the August 1st, 2023 regular board minutes meetings, the August 9th, 2023 special call minutes meetings, the August 11th, 12th, 2023 board and administrative retreat minutes, and the August 30th, 2023 work session minutes.
The retreat minutes was what, August 11th and 12th? 11th and 12th. All right, number 5, Mr. Brooks.
Interim superintendent's reports.
You want to talk about that or allow the board to ask?
Anybody have any questions?
Colleagues? I believe it's page 32, if I'm not mistaken.
Did we touch on the accreditation summary?
Yes. Ms. Johnson, would you touch on the accreditation? Ms. Johnson.
I think that was Dr. Coleman, Ms. Wentz, the accreditation summary.
As it relates to MD's accreditation for the 2023-2024 year, we are accredited. So no worries, no issues there, and as always, we can make some improvement in our personnel, finding highly qualified personnel, and also working with our teachers that are working in the district out of area to improve that, but we are highly accredited for the 23-24 school year.
And also I have provided you, just an overview of where we are as it relates to the number of teachers that are out of the area. As confirmed what Dr. Coleman said, we are fully accredited. We just have some things where it just says that we are just looking at some areas. But I have provided you a copy of the number of teachers that are non-licensed and where they are. Also, the number of teachers that are out of area, and those are some things that was on that accreditation standard. The number of third grade teachers that are teaching out of area, and the number of teachers we have gotten certified, because we've got licenses for them, but we still have the licenses pending. As relates to our librarians, we are sharing librarians in two of our schools. That will be Plotting Ground and East, and also Greenville. Those Greenville, primarily Greenville Elementary. We have currently completed our financial audit for 22-23. We have, the business office has a procedure in place for issuing our EDF cards. Before, EDF cards were presented to people who were federally funded, and during that time we couldn't. So now everybody's able to get EDF cards. So those are the things that were pretty much an overview of the areas that were concerned with from MDE that we are looking at and really just ensuring that we are addressing those issues.
Ms. Wentz, question, or Mr. Brooks, do we have a timeline as to when we, and I know you can't put your finger on it as to when we may be in full compliance, I guess you could say, with some of what they shared?
Well, as relates to the teacher, as you know,
Let's move the target.
to find a teacher, that's definitely a moving target. But we are definitely, planning this, Mrs. Griffin, we'll be going to different,
Prepared.
fairs and trying to get our teachers. Also, we're looking at the teachers that's not highly qualified. We're working to get them highly qualified, we're getting them MAT program. And we're making sure that we're verifying that they're in those programs, that they're doing what they need to do to get fully certified. So, we are definitely working hard on those. And we have this, and this, she's online, she has a list of, when licensures or expiring, and she's getting with those persons and those customers to ensure that those persons are doing what they need to do to get their, highly qualified.
Any questions, colleagues? Seeing none, thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Mr. Brooks, the MAAP preliminary scores, is that something, or am I too, am I ahead?
Where are you?
On page 50, am I ahead? Or is that part of the report as well? Okay, 5.2, all right. Yeah. So are there any questions about 5.1, colleagues, the maintenance report? And then 5.2 is the state of the district report. So I was looking at the MAAP preliminary scores.
Ms. Johnson?
Okay. Yes, sir. Let's go over the.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Have it your way.
All righty. First of all, how you all doing? All right, I'm going to make it real quick, okay? Our theme is soaring to excellence. When you think about soaring, you have to think about eagles. And the characteristics of eagles, one of the greatest ones that I love, is that they only deal with living things. They never deal with dead things or the past or anything, so I love that. All right, our mission, vision, and goal, and focus, and motto, you are very familiar with it. As we stroll through, when you leave this presentation, this quick presentation, you all can ask any question, of course, but we're giving a brief overview of the state of the district and our SMART goals. Okay, when it comes to the curriculum focus of the year, we want to analyze multiple sources of data. We want to use data to guide instruction, provide quality differentiated instruction to meet the needs of every learner, coaching teachers in an effective manner to differentiate learning environments, developing professional learning community, sustain learning and quality instruction, aligned assessment, individualized interventions. Our 5 Ps, first of all, you got to be present, you must be positive, you must be prepared, persistent, and productive every day in order to get us to where we need to be. Right here, this cute sheet here governs the state of Mississippi, okay? These are your district cut scores, your 700-point schools here, your elementary and your junior high. And our 1,000-point schools, that's your high schools. Okay? When you think about data, we use it every day, whether conscious or just doing it. Data is what drives a lot. Reliable is smart, goal setting, opportunities, consistent progress monitoring, and professional learners community and targeted interventions. Okay, this is our big baby here. First of all, I'd like to report that on last night, we had an awesome district-wide parent night. We had over 500 people in attendance. We had our MDE, literacy coaches, we had Delta Health Alliance, we also had Parents for Public Schools present. We put the parents in concurrent sessions. They went to Wing E. They actually changed class, like their children would. Every class dealt with a component of reading. The instructor in that particular session were our MDE coaches. While the parents were in class, we had opportunity to babysit Miss Gary and many more, where they had popcorn and movies. So it was an awesome night on last night, great attendance. Our theme was glowing and growing into reading. I said all that because we're here. I cannot make this look pretty right now, okay? I have spoken and shared before, and I still say we have an achievement gap that we're working relentless to try to fill. Pre-pandemic, we know that the county and the city in-pass rate was in the 90-some% for both districts. Right now, we are not there by no means. Right now, we're at a 61.7. Our task is to get it back to where it was pre-pandemic. We have some concerns that can only be addressed through intervention and strategic planning, which we working daily to make sure that happen. We're working with our K through second grade teacher force, providing high quality instruction training. We're progress monitoring. We have our first 4.5 week benchmark on this week. So this is where we are. We have 61.7, which is an improvement from last year, where we had, we had 70%, and the year before we were 61.7. So it's a slight improvement from the year before, but we're constantly trying to get back to where we were before the pandemic. Right here, the rising third graders. Remember this summer, we say we want to get a head start. Okay, this data here is actually the data of our third graders and where they are now. Okay, all the ones that are level 3 and above are the ones that we got to focus on as of now, but they are not where, that number is not where we need it to be. But our ones at level 2, level 1 and level 2 are the ones that we are primarily concerned about. These babies now are our babies that's in third grade as we speak. Same thing with our Streaner. This is Streaner data. I wanted you all to get the trending look in regards to our Streaning data. Our Streaning data, the BOY, MOY, and EOY is for the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and the end of the year. Okay? If the percentages base is middle of above grade level, early or on grade level, or 1 grade level below. Okay. So, what you're about to see now is preliminary. And what I mean about that is not official. The data was sent down by the state, but it is by no means official and will not be until September. Projected. Last year, we was at a 514, which made the district a D. This year, it is a 53-point increase up to a 564, which will be a C, which is successful. If you notice, within our proficiency, we have more students. Everything that's in green, that's an improvement. Our growth, of course, this model here has 400 points towards growth. And then all the other points is dealing with proficiency. But 400 points towards growth is where you get your largest growth. In other words, we just have to ensure that every child is greater leaving the classroom than they were coming in. Bankston, the year before there was a 373C. There's a 46-point decrease at Bankston down to a 327D. And go back up. And one of the things that to know as far as growth, we're working and have strategies in place to look at those students that's within the bottom 25 and those that is all growth. We got to make sure that every child grow. And so we'll see some SMART goals in a minute. Okay, Davis was a C. spring 22, and now they're projected to be a C also, which is 344, but they did decrease by 10 points. Ironically, you all know that Claudine Brown and Threadgill Primary, they do not test. Well, guess what? The state pretty much said, you feeding us the babies. So Claudine Brown is the feeder school for East. So they said, okay, we want to give you some accountability rating. So what they did, all of the students that leave from Claudine Brown and actually go to East, they use that student data to give Claudine Brown their rating. So based upon the students that attended Claudine Brown and then went to East, Claudine Brown rating would be a C. Okay? East was a 298. They increased to a 304, which is a 6-point increase. And we just have an area of growth here that we got to work on, and to make sure that all of the growth area, and also this school increased in every proficiency level. DeFleur County Elementary went from a 290 to a 339, which is a C. That's a 48.57% point increase. And I want you to pay close attention to your participation rate. The state requires at least a 95% participation rate. That means you have to test at least 95% of your students. Threadgill Primary. Threadgill Primary is the feeder school for Threadgill Elementary. In other words, we want to know what's happening in K through first. So when they get to us, we'll know what it is. So last year was the first time that they ever assigned grades to these feeder schools. And for whatever reason, they end up with a 9, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But this year, they had official rating, so it's a 319, which is a D. So they have a plus 310-point increase. Threadgill Elementary, they were a 243F in 22, and you can see that they grew here in every area, and also they grew in every level of proficiency, which is a plus 40 points increase, and their participation rate was on point as well. Amanda Elsa Junior High. This right here is different. I never witnessed it happening in all of my years, okay? They increased, there was an F rating the year before. They increased to a 279, which gave them like a plus 47 increase. But here's the deal. Somebody decided to stay at home that day. So they did not reach their 95% participation rate. And because they only had 94.8, the law says they do not round when it comes to participation, and we lost a letter grade. So it decreased down an entire letter grade because of a couple children. And it could be many factors. Even if you deal with your full academic year, if they transfer it out, they would actually credit back to us. It's possible that that particular child, but anyway, we had 94.8, and they end up decreasing them an entire letter grade. Greenwood Middle increased by 87 points from a 273D to a 360C. Amanda Elsie High, they were at 2612 rating the year before. This year they had a 276B, a 64-point increase. Greenwood High, 564B. This year a 273B, plus 86-point increase. DeFleur County High was at a 592C. This year at a 590C, and they had, actually we had a little change in the preliminary data. I go over there with you, but Instead of 590, it's 591. It went up by 1 point. Check. Okay, they do it.
I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
590 to 591, does that impact?
Let me double check. No. It's still the same level. But instead of 5 points, they went up to a 595. Okay? But it's still the same accountability rating. It stays at a C. Okay. So after you analyze data, now you say, now what? Like, what do you do with what you have seen? First of all, it's good. The good practice to just know what model that you seeing for your instructional delivery, your instructional management plan. Ours is related close to the Dewey model, where we dealing with the content, the delivery system, the context, and it's student-centered. And we learn through experience. Okay, when you think about the instructional management system, the CIA, we're using our MDE standards, our scaffolding document, blueprint, evidence-based strategy, HQIM lesson plan, and pacing guide. Instructional delivery model, we have the graduate release model and the EDI, which is explicit direct instruction. Pretty much I do, we do, you do. And gradually releases them into a differentiation, instructional support. I'll let you all read all of this at your own leisure, but if you see something that you have some concern about, let me know. Our resources, the main one that MDE promote according to the ED report, we chose HQIM, which is high quality instructional material for all of our core subjects. Okay, our assessment, the C, the I, the A, the assessment, the state assessment, the 4.5-week benchmark, the comprehensive benchmark, and our streamers. Secondary support, we have advanced placement courses, middle college, ACT support, major clarity for ISPs, credit recovery, credit accrual, and the GEDSL Academy. Intervention, skill-based intervention, standard-based, computer-based intervention, face-to-face intervention, and different accommodation that they may qualify for as 504 IEPs and language service plan. Okay, this right here just background concerning SMART goals, but if you'll scroll on up, we'll get to the SMART goals. Okay, our SMART goals, and I'm going to briefly go through them, and since Ms. Gary is right here, I'm going to let her do her kindergarten, MCAS, SMART goals.
So our SMART goals for our pre-K and kindergarten, of course, our anticipated exit scores for our pre-K students is a 498, while our anticipated exit scores for our kindergarten students is a 681. So the goal is for us to increase that percentage every year by 10%. And so in 2021-22, we were 54.93%, 22-23, 60.87%. Our goal for this year for pre-K is a 70.87%, and of course by next year, 80.87%. With kindergarten, it's the same thing, a 681. In 2021-2022, we were 35.67%. We exceeded the 10%. In 22-23, we were 54.79%. We also exceeded it. Our plan is to exceed for 23-24, 65.79%, and for the upcoming year, 24-25, 75.79%. And I can say with confidence, based on preliminary what we're looking at now, because our students have just taken their fall kindergarten readiness assessment, that we will exceed those by more than 10% for our pre-K and our kindergarten students.
Will you have the same group of students?
For pre-K, the pre-K students. So yes, so when you look at the data, I do separate the students, the ones that did attend pre-K, and we look at if they grew more than the students that were not exposed to any type of early childhood program. So we do look at that. The state also looks at that too when we get into the state invested pre-K programs and the collaborative programs. So
I do know I was listening to our data goals, and you were certain, you said that with great confidence, but we would be still working with that same group and with that rate of confidence.
So the benefit of it is that on last year, that was our first full year of incorporating a standard phonics and phonemic awareness program in the schools across the district. Everyone was using the same thing. We were using Saxon Phonics and Michael Hegarty phonemic awareness. This year we've transitioned into reading, which is those components are embedded in the curriculum. But the hope is that they will use Saxon and Michael Hegarty as intervention pieces to work in small group and with one-on-one interventions. That is the missing piece with students, is the phonics and the phonemic awareness, which that goes into the fluency and the comprehension. And so I'm pretty confident because we're training the teachers. We started out early this year, training the teachers on utilizing those instructional strategies in the classroom. And this is a high quality instructional management program that has been approved by MDE. And so our literacy coaches are working really well with us from MDE in ensuring that the teachers are trained properly. It's a very scripted program. We do have a lot of teachers, we talked about it earlier, that are out of area or may not have received the elementary education instruction in school. And so this is going to help us with the scripted lesson, and they become more comfortable teaching. They still have to annotate their lesson plans to ensure that they're going over it before they relay it to the students. But it is our hope and our goal that our teachers provide high quality instruction in those K through second grade classrooms, so that we don't have to look at third grade data that looks like that they're exiting second grade and they're ready and prepared to take the third grade assessment.
But I'm just wondering if we have, I see for 23-24, it's a 70.87. I understand HQIM, I understand building capacity in teachers, and then those that may not have been trained properly in their programs due to them graduating out of different programs that did not meet school district requirements. But my concern is having such a high score projected goal and students coming from, we don't know.
It starts, one of the benefits of the district pre-K program is that we don't have a high turnover rate with our teachers. So as long as we keep investing in them, and I do understand that we do have programs, students that come from the local daycares and the local, we have a collaboration with the Head Start. They utilize the same curriculum that we utilize. But one thing I can say about this community, and as far as the daycares are concerned, they want to have their students just as prepared for kindergarten, and they're calling asking what type of progress monitoring are you utilizing in your schools, which in pre-K we use STAR, early literacy. And so a lot of the local daycares are using that, and I'm providing them with the company, and they can get they can buy the program, and they can also send that data with those students when they do start kindergarten. The disadvantage is that in the state of Mississippi, kindergarten is not a requirement. So you do have an influx of children coming into school 6 years old, and they're going into first grade.
And I think that's my point. Will we be impacted if we don't meet that goal?
No, this is just a goal that we've set for ourselves.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. We're shooting high.
The shoe's good, but I just, wanted us to be safe.
Yes, yes. This is just us
We don't know
setting
where
it
our
down.
children are coming from.
Right, right. So we hope that with of course, with our collaboration with Delta Health Alliance and the Promise School community, we're hoping that with those relationships that we're building, because they have that grassroots type effect in Head Start, they can get shoes on the ground type and go to the houses and help us get the parents to understand the importance of early childhood in the homes.
Yes, and, I mean, and just to add to what Ms. Gary said, we just watching what happened already. Like, they increased 20 points from 21-22 to 22-23. So right at 19-point increase, and if they just keep in that same, I think it'll be okay. All right. All right. In regards to proficiency, we looked at the state proficiency rate in regards to our reading overall. So we're projecting that we will have like a 9-point increase just based upon what we have seen in the past with the things that we have in place. So we only shooting for 9 points. Now, one thing about proficiency is totally different from growth. I really feel like every child should grow. So our growth goals are different than our proficiency goal. Now, right here, we went back and forth with this one to come to a consensus. For us at 30 points the first year. Right now, the first initial assessment, they were at 49%. So with what we have in place and based up on the pre-pandemic scores, we projecting that our first year would be a 30-point increase to sort of get us back to where we were, which is 79%, and then 10 points thereafter. Okay. All right. Increase of percentage points in our reading growth for all. Like I said, we are at 20% that first year, and because this is growth and it's not proficiency. So we feel that every child should grow. And in some schools, we have like 100% growth, especially at our high school. And then we have 90% growth. So it's very possible for our growth numbers to be extremely high. So we're saying that we're going to grow that first year at least 20% because this is too low, saying that only 50% of children that come in your classroom should grow. So we can't keep it there. So the first year, this year, we're aiming for a 20% increase, and then every year 9% thereafter. And this is bottom 25% growth, which is the same thing. We want to grow all of our children. Okay, the math goals for proficiency is here, pretty much the same thing. We're saying 8%. Our math performance overall is higher than our ELA. So we're doing 8% here for the proficiency. The growth for all, you can see already in math, they're at 72% district-wide. 72% of our students grew in math. So we have a 5% increase every year thereafter, should put us at 82%, which is a very smart goal. Okay? Same thing here with the growth for all for math. Our science, we went back and forth with this one as well. We're doing 10-point increase every year for science, just based up on what we're seeing in our data for us, how they're growing just district-wide at different schools. And we have schools that we have targeted that's having some issue with science that we are sort of honing in on that particular school, those schools. And we're thinking that 10% is a reasonable SMART goal for our science proficiency.
I have a question about science. So do these percentages include 5th and 8th?
Yes, and actually those are the only one. It includes 5th and 8th grade in our high school biology.
Question. So in our science classes, do we have any highly qualified teachers in those areas?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a big turnover in our science.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So when you say high school biology,
Mhm.
is it a certain level, maybe one level or all levels?
Just biology, just 10th grade. Mhm.
Is that biology two?
One, just biology. So the science scores are, it only make a 5th and 8th, and biology is just 3 grade levels. So that's 5th, 8th, and 10th. 19. Okay? U.S. history is our 11th graders, and these are just 10 points every year for our proficiency in our growth goal in U.S. history. Okay, so when you think about acceleration, you think about your AP, which they have to have a 3 or above at the end of the year, your dual enrollment and so forth. And so based on where we are now, because you see it was a decrease this current year in our acceleration. We were at a 35.4, but it decreased down to a 24.45. So we're saying that 10% will be reasonable because it would get us back to where we were. And then if we just keep growing 10 percentage point thereafter, Ms. Hart is working very diligent with our dual enrollment and our AP acceleration piece. Okay. 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 Our ACT, so let me just sort of explain this. These points here is not our average ACT score. These points are derived if the students make 22 on math, 22 on reading, and 18 on English. So the percent of students that actually made 22 math, 22 reading, or 18 on English, these are your percentage here. So our goal is at 10% for that as well. Right now, well, 21-22 is at a 10.5% of our students met that. And this year we're at a 10.10. So we're aiming, because of the programs we put in place, we have Jump Start, and that is a modular-based program that they use throughout Mississippi. That's for students. And we also have WIN ACT, which is modular-based program for our teachers.
Question, Ms. Johnson.
Uh-huh.
Traditionally, I know our students take the ACT 11 or 12th grade traditionally.
Right.
Are we looking to maybe encourage those students to begin taking the test as early as 9th or 8th grade based upon data that has been provided? Because again, I'm just of the opinion, if they become more familiar with it, the process, they could be better prepared to score higher.
Right, yes. And we're totally in agreement with that and already putting those measures in place.
Okay.
One of the other things that I want to add with our ACT is work keys out there. For the first time, this district participated in the work key program. The work keys is the sister to ACT, but it's like the applied knowledge, knowledge that they would need on their job and so forth. They go the career route. And the district will get accountability points for it if they do it their 12th grade year, because the only thing is they have to have had ACT, okay? And right here, this our graduation rate, points that we received, 179. Of course, they double on the accountability model. So 179.4 was 21-22. And then 22-23, it decreased by 4 points. So we're saying at least a 5% increase in regards to our graduation rate. And the max points there is 200.
What is our graduation rating currently? If you don't have it on hand, you can get back.
Yeah, I want to say it's half of 185. We'll get back with you on it. Okay. Come on, say anything wrong. Oh, yeah, we'll give it to you per school and district. Okay. All right. Right here, our English learner babies, we know that language acquisition is how they're measured. If I had time, we would go. They took 5 points from every component for our English learner babies. So if we have a school that have 10 or more EL students, the school automatically lose 5 points in each component area if we're not showing that English learners children are growing. One of the things that we put in place is Imagine Learning. Imagine Learning give them their instruction in their native language. We have a lot of, well, some students that our second highest language is Arabic. Hispanic the first, Arabic, and we have Wolof, we have other dialects that's here. But the good thing about this particular program can offer instruction in those dialects as well as those other languages. And it gradually releases them to English. So we're seeing growth with our English learners. The highest points that they can receive in our elementary and middle school is 35 points, and high school is 50. And I'm glad to report that 20-something, some of them get right at 30-something. So those, our English learner babies are really, really striving. And it only happens if a school has more than 10 English learners enrolled.
So how long is I understand you say we have a program that provides instruction in their native language, but the point here is for them to learn English.
Right,
correct?
right.
Okay, so I hear you say a gradual release.
Right.
How long is that gradual release?
It based upon them, so it put them on an individualized learning path. So their Imagine Learning is like iReady. So it starts and they take a pre-test. And so as part of that pre-test is testing their language acquisition. And after that, it put them on a path. So every day or every so often, they take like tests in regards to English. And these teachers report, you know, that they see. And then other things that we use in the classroom for is laboring, like laboring things and things that we would use for dyslexic children and other things, just those measures, just making sure that if there's a table, write table on it. And then they're able to make that connection. And most of them actually score out of that program before they even get to high school. And believe it or not, we know that we have a large population in Itta Bena, but Mr. Brown did not have to deal with EL component because when they made it to the high school, they had already tested out. Yes. So the curriculum team is here. Dr. Gary, Director of Secondary, Ms. Hart, Director of Professional Development and Testing, Dr. Daniels, Math and Assistant Coordinator, Ms. Flowers, DHA PBIS, and Assistant Curriculum Coordinator, Ms. Collins, and Student Support, and Assistant Curriculum Coordinator, Mrs. Lashada Roby Purnell. So, I know it was long, but.
You're fine.
Okay.
Any questions, colleagues? Seeing none, thank you, Mrs. Johnson and Dr. Beard. I know next you have the information from MDE that I believe the board has already asked questions about for your report. But Mr. Brooks, do you want to speak about the retreat briefly as part of your report, or any feedback, thoughts? Mrs. Johnson and Mrs. Thomas Mike.
Ms. Rimmer we did a survey, and Ms. Rimmer is going to speak about that.
Okay, I'm looking at the, and I can provide this for you all as well. One of the things we asked was a scale from 1 to 10. How did everyone feel about it? And basically 50-50 almost. We got 9s and 10s. Everyone said it was great to come together and you have the opportunity to talk about and discuss the board and staff relations. They like that, and being able to speak freely and openly. The information was very informative. The food was good. Okay, and as far as overnight, we asked about an overnight retreat. 66.7% said no, 33.3% said yes. Okay. Additional comments. Everybody, was saying that this is something that they hope we do annually. So that's pretty much the consensus, and we had 12 people to respond.
Thank you, Ms. Rimmer. Any other comments, colleagues, that you all would like to add regarding the retreat? At least for me, it was an awesome experience. I just hope that we can grow from what was shared and discussed. And again, I think as Attorney Armstead indicated, make sure that the main thing, our students remain the main thing. All right.
I'd just like to add, it was very informative to me, and I really gained a lot from it.
All right, number 6, Mr. Brooks.
Bond issue discussion.
Attorney Palmer, do you have anything you would like to add?
I've been in consultation with Mr. Brooks and Attorney Young, and we're planning a meeting sometime between now and our next board meeting to just make sure that everyone's on the same page, be able to make a presentation before the board regarding where we go from here.
And just a reminder, if I'm not mistaken, during the retreat, Attorney Young did indicate if the board wishes to have a bond issue placed before the public for election either December the 5th or December the 12th, we will need to take action on such very soon.
That is correct.
All right. And then also, colleagues, I did share with you all via email some information that was provided by the district from the architect. It is my understanding that Mr. Brooks and Dr. Coleman have been meeting with the architecture firm weekly. Do you all want to speak to those meetings by chance, or? But everybody does have the schematics that was shared.
The main focus of the conversations with the architect has been to stay within the constraints of our budget, taking much consideration to some of the non-negotiables set by the board, meaning building a high school. There have been conversations about location. Many of those things we discussed at the board retreat. So basically keeping the main thing, and making sure that the architect realized that we can't go outside of the scope of what we've discussed and have been discussing with the board.
Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. Thank you, Dr. Coleman. Number 7, Mr. Brooks.
16 section report. Ms. Washington.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What we have coming up on the board meeting is we have 4 sections of land for bid, and then we also have a reassignment of a lease request that the board would have to deal with. And in one of the leases, we might have to determine to receive the bids but not open them, because we are dealing with an easement issue that has to be resolved first. But I still would like people who are interested to go ahead and submit their bid, knowing that we will not open those bids until we have that easement ready.
Any questions, colleagues? Thank you, Mrs. Washington. Number 8, Mr. Pepper. Oh, good. Thank you. Yes. Yes, sir.
You should have your normal board report with you that I submitted, about a week or so ago, probably very passive. But I just handed out something, because tonight I think, rather, than go over particular subject, I'll go and find some light focus if I put out carpet replacement project and the window replacement project. And at the end, you will have some action on some of those things, and, I was discussing those.
I don't know if it's a question, but more of a concern. While, as you know, all of our facilities could use all the work that they can get, many could be raised. But I am concerned with the district potentially not allocating the funds as indicated. But my bigger concern is, you know, we're in the business of educating kids. And to say that we are going to potentially be asked to inconvenience education is just not something that, and I can't speak for the board, that I'm just open to. Now, you know, under the implementation strategy, it talks about the breaks, nights and weekends, which could be more feasible, but that within itself could cause some challenges too. Again, I'm just concerned about inconveniencing education. But that's all I have. Colleagues, anything from you?
Let me point out one other thing.
Yes, sir.
There's some mention of bond issue. I know under the previous administration, we talked about some about potential coaches. I don't know where that stands, but I will tell you, at one time, I think Gaines, Quality Brown, the two of us being considered for use. Those two schools constitute almost 50% of that bid. Basically, I think it was 1.23 million for the market. Those two schools eat up almost 500,000 of dollars for the market. So if you're not gonna use those schools, you may not want to spend that kind of money. It might be better served for HVAC.
What's your projection for finishing this project?
If you award it now, my guess is they'll finish it in the summer of 24. Simply because of the shuffling of people, I mean, if you physically do all that work, even if they were to try to do it on the night of the weekend, which they do have full access to school to work nights and weekends, think about it. There's no way they can remove carpet from a room, put down the VCT, put down the base, and paint those walls and have the school ready in the next morning. You can't, it's just not enough time. You're gonna have to either wait till the breaks to try to implement it all, or give these contractors access to some number of rooms at a time.
Yeah, well, you know, across the summer, what project did you tackle across the summer? What project did you tackle across the summer? What?
Some was the toilet and HVAC, and had originally planned to do the carpet work this past summer.
But whatever.
Before they authorized pay that project. Being the authorized bid, is the one that did that. I think part of the concern was at the time, was the very thing I mentioned, school closing. Do we really want to go do this carpet work when we may be potentially closing the school? And so, pumping the brakes on, let's start that project.
You got any plans of moving these students?
No, sir, we haven't worked with the principals yet. Typically, once the contract's awarded, we have what's called a pre-construction meeting with the contractor and the principal, and you kind of lay out all those plans. Similarly, as you know,
questions, colleagues? Mr.
I would like to have maybe some type of meeting with Mr. Pepper, before, with the district and Mr. Pepper before our next board meeting, so we can make some, so we can finish deciding on which direction we're gonna go based on, and then find out about this study that we did with the closures with the last administration. See if this administration is going to, maybe see a projected closure base, or if they wanna, utilize the, plan that has not been executed, but, you know, the plan started in 22, 23. So I would like to have another meeting with Mr. Pepper, kind of clear up any, so that we can align our ESSER funds to where it's gonna be basically needed, especially if we're deciding to close facilities. So just a suggestion.
I think we've got to
Yeah, we
make
got
some
to nail
decisions,
this
we've
down.
got to make some decisions, we can't lose the ESSER funds, and I certainly don't see just saying, okay, no, and then we paying somebody that we already have a contract with, just because we didn't do the project. We've got to move ahead as far as I'm concerned.
So, to your point, Dr. Moore, you only have 2 days. You have tomorrow and Friday, because Monday is Labor Day. But I will, you know, Mr. Brooks, if you check your schedule and, let Dr. Moore set that up. We can only have 2 board members there, because we don't want to have a special call meeting for that. But what, can you provide some feedback, your thoughts, Mr. Brooks, as the superintendent regarding what has been presented?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pepper, for this information. We're gonna go ahead on and try to, deepen, dive into these discussions so that we can make a decision.
I really haven't had a talk with Mr. Pittman about the carpet, but we did talk about the windows. And what he told me at the time was that it would take 381 calendar days. And that's, we only have 87 school days, and that's instructional time for our kids. He said that we would need to move the kids out of the classrooms and to the auditorium while the contractors did the work. And I said, no, I couldn't go with that. So that's my concern, the students losing instructional time.
Okay, and this ESSER 3, the targeted facilities are Greenwood High, Langston, and Greenview. Yes. Okay.
Any other questions, colleagues? Thank you again, Mr. Pepper. Mr. Pearson, that's okay, Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Pierce.
Number 9.
Good evening. I'm Mr. Sean Pierce. This is my second time, coming before the board. Thank you for having me. I'm here to, on a smoother basis. We got it wrong, so they can get it right. I'm saying that because I have a lot of experience with referrals. I have a lot of experience with being put out of class, but I also had that experience of turning it around. So what I did was I created a curriculum around turning it around, and it has worked over the years. We have a lot of the students, Ms. Brandis Brown, she's a product of our program. Along with her parents, and along with the parents, we find our way, and we find our niche to get in and help further the educational process. We make campuses go smooth. We find out what other people don't have time to find out, and we act on it in a proactive manner. We try our best to help not make things hit the headlines. We throw water on problems real fast, and it never hits the light of day because we haven't. But what we've been facing over the years is, just like now, this is my second time, I had to change my approach of it. I changed my word. The word consultant didn't fit too well with the last administration, so I changed it to contract. Just picture me with some boots on. Just picture me cutting grass, but now I'm working with at-risk youth that are now carrying automatic weapons, that are now coming from broken homes. And with the pandemic still having an effect on our schools, we saw fit to develop such programs. We weren't allowed to work with the public schools on when we came, but we did. The charter schools saw our presentation, and Dr. Shaw gave us an opportunity to come in and work the Engaged Youth program, and it worked. We landed 2 contracts with the Florida Legacy Academy, but I'm a product of the public schools, and I'm a component of the public schools. Through the professional development that I've been afforded to come through the public schools, I've learned a bunch of strategies to go along with strategies that I've already learned through the AmeriCorps program in my education at Mississippi Valley State. I started working with youth in Hillsborough, Mississippi. That's the youth sports program, and now those kids they're 35 to 40 now. They have kids, and I'm working with the kids of kids now. So we have a real deep relationship that the school district can use when it comes to that area. We want to help our teachers control their classroom. We were allowed to teach virtually over the pandemic as what they call us, what's the word y'all call us? Non-certified employees. So I found my niche, and I found a way to find an area in which I can be certified, and that's working with our at-risk youth. And I created a curriculum around it, and I'm willing to dispense it, and I'm trying to. I've worked for the public schools for a long time here in Greenwood. Now I'm trying to forge a relationship with the public schools so that we can foresee some problems and make sure going forward that we can help put this thing together, and hopefully we can develop a working relationship and come to the table so that we can put some of these strategies together and put it down in our public schools. I made a 20-something minute presentation last time. The lady told me I had 10. So any questions?
Khalid, any questions for Mr. Pearson?
I don't have any questions, but Mr. Pearson, I appreciate your steadfastness and your commitment and focus on our youth, on the youth here in our county. Hopefully our current administration will be looking seriously at your program and your curriculum for vetting purposes and to ensure that it is a
Any other questions? Mr.
Well, I want to know,
Abraham?
what is your funding source, Mr. Pearson?
I don't have a funding source, I have an impactful program that I'm trying to provide services.
Free of charge?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so my question is, what are you asking of the school
I'm
district?
attempting to try to be a minority contractor with the GLCSD school district in an area of at-risk youth.
And the fee that you would want?
I would like to sit down and talk about that. I think that would be premature. I think that would be premature right now because we haven't looked at my program. I really want to sit down and seriously explain it to you. I actually can go through it with y'all, but I don't have time right now. But we want to be seriously thought about to do this work, and we want to do it around the academic schedule, and we also want to make sure that we work well with school district and schools across the district. We want to be able to be used across the district, not just in one place, but wherever the hot spots are, wherever the need is, we want to be there. We want to know what's going on before the referral, before the kids are thrown out. We have a behavior forgiveness program. I was forgiven, so I changed and paid it forward, so there's other kids that can do it too.
Mr. Pearson, who's working with you?
I say we all the time, but saying I is the
Okay.
last time. But I've identified several people in the district. You have, for example, Mr. Gideon over at Intervention at the floor. He's one of those go-to people. There's a go-to person like that on every campus. They just don't have a title or they don't have those responsibilities, and their work never gets credited to them. Their work usually goes to an administrator or somebody who gets that credit for that work. But it's always somebody doing that dirty work on the bottom. That's what we want to do.
I'm just making the assumption that you will provide your curriculum and you will have okay, that we could see with all of the people who would be
We're funded
involved.
by State Farm. We've been in existence for 2 years now, and we've been running successful programs all through the community.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Pearson, just briefly, can you just speak to maybe like 2 or 3 maybe youth organizations that you or your group have worked with in the local community?
New Stone Street Baseball. I had 2 T-ball teams. I tried to put as many kids as possible into these programs. I work with Charles Cooley with Future Champions basketball. I coach with Free AAU team. Provide positive instruction using my expertise that I have in that area, and I combine the two. I combine the mistakes that I've made, almost pro, almost NCAA tournament, to get somebody to not be almost looking at. So I use my mistakes to help my people.
Gotcha. So you have not had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Brooks to kind of, okay, okay.
I called him, you know, on last time, I had some meetings, and I ended up working. And I do the program on a day-to-day basis for the school anyway, because it's a strategy. All I have to do is show up and find out the problems, and we do it accordingly. The problems happen on a day-to-day basis, on every day on campus.
Mr. Brooks, so what are your thoughts? And I know this may be your first time hearing this, and maybe more discussion needs to be had. But I certainly agree with Mr. Pearson that with all that our youth are facing at home and in the communities, our schools can utilize all the help that it can get. Now, I'm not saying we got to go with Mr. Pearson, but you know, I can't dispute that point. So is that a meeting that you're willing to have to kind of sit down and speaking to the microphone? Speak, Ms. Brooks, speaking to the microphone so they can hear.
Saying I agree with what Mr. Pearson do. I've seen his work, and it's good. He's worked with some people that he didn't mention then, I don't know why. But he said he could meet with me. I have returned his call, and I have. You said Mr. Brooks, though. I did return his call.
Mr. Wallington, I can hear you with Mr. Wallington.
Okay.
But I did
You said, you said Mr. Brooks, though. All right. Okay.
So if it's okay, I would suggest getting with Mr. Brooks to present your proposal, as Dr. Moore and Mrs. Abraham alluded to, so we can get something formally presented to the board if it's the wishes of the superintendent to move forward. Certainly appreciate it. Go ahead. Oh, not a problem. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
So number 10, of course, would be public comments that would be utilized during our board meeting. So now we're on 11, Mr. Brooks.
Regular agenda policy BCBD.
Already you have 11.1.
Approval of RFP results for computer-based assistant program.
And that begins on page 93, correct, Ms. Remy? Okay. Any questions, colleagues, or would you like somebody to talk to us about it? You have a preference?
Ms. Johnson.
The results here is from the RFPs that was put out. It was handled through e-bidding, the reverse option process, and these are the results. The various programs that was out was for our diagnostic, which is required by the state 3 times a year. And the winner of that particular bid was Curriculum Associate, and it's a screening program and a supplemental support. English learners, that's the Imagine Learning that I made reference to earlier for our EL babies, and Imagine Learning did win that bid as well. Our testing platform, our item banks and so forth, we have the educational material solution that won that bid, and also our online reading program, the winner was Renaissance Learning. We use a committee to vet the e-bid and only handle the monetary side, but we also had a committee to look thoroughly at the actual service that they could provide.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Any questions, colleagues? Mr. Brooks, 11.2.
Approval to allow volunteer services from Dr. Sandra Ivy. Mrs. Johnson, would you speak on that, please?
Dr. Ivory came by and she wanted to volunteer within the district. Right now, she's currently employed as a professor with the Southern Arkansas University. She's been an administrator. She's a math specialist. She worked closely with professional learning as a professional learning coordinator. High quality HQIM, grant writing, and so forth. She's from the Mississippi Delta area, from Greenwood, and she's requesting to volunteer. We will use her with a primary focus on monitoring our POCs and to assist in the implementation of effective strategies within the class.
Any questions, colleagues?
And I did look at the policy in regards to volunteer, the requirements, and so according to the policy, she's vetted and meet all those requirements.
So is she providing us with in time?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna pass out your request.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Brooks.
Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District Every Student Succeed Act, Parent and Family Engagement Policy.
Colleagues, are there any questions?
What are two revisions? What are just one or two revisions? Do we have some?
Ms. House.
Okay, good evening. What's your question?
Just a couple of revisions.
So those sections that you're referring to, so that means a revision would have been made within those sections, those particular dates?
Part 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay. All of
And I think that's related to, so that's last year's date, right? Because I don't have a copy in front of me. So
The highlight-
basically,
red highlighted part, maybe? Is that the revision? The red highlighted section? No.
no, not the
Okay,
red highlight.
okay.
Yeah, so the page 97, where we discussed, when we went into the pandemic, we went from offering all face-to-face into some virtuals. So through the comprehensive needs assessment that was conducted this past year to help to solicit input for the policy, so it was still stated that they saw a need to continue the virtual meetings and not just go strictly back face-to-face.
Any other questions, colleagues?
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
You're welcome.
Seeing none, 11-4, Mr. Brooks.
Memorandum of Understanding, University of Mississippi.
This is Dr. Gary. Any questions, colleagues? You want to briefly talk about it, Dr. Gary, or?
So I don't know if you have ever seen on our social media pages, the University of Mississippi, we collaborate with them to offer our pre-K students a standards-based curriculum for social emotional. If you've ever seen it, the students are exposed to yoga. They're exposed to healthy eating and cooking. They're encouraged to do that at home. Also, for example, at LaFleur County Elementary School, the pre-K classes, they have a tower garden, and all of these supplies and the materials are provided by the University of Mississippi. So at LaFleur County Elementary, the students grew their own dill and cucumbers, and they made pickles in the classroom. And so it exposes the children to healthy eating, encourages them to, with anti-bullying activities, and to diffuse any type of anger that they may have. So it's encouraged. They include the parents in that. They do a survey. Our teachers were also able to attend a conference this summer where they go and do yoga. And this year we had a really good turnout with our parents at Claudine Brown Elementary. We invited all the schools to participate, but they had different stations where the students were exposed to STEM activities, where they made a robot with some boxes and foil, and the parents had to do yoga, and even some of the principals participated in doing the yoga with the students.
So, Dr. Gary, can the administration and board participate in yoga too?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
All right.
Sure, we'll make sure we have mats available for everyone, and space enough to do that. And fortunately, the high school principals, they work really well with us when we need accommodations for the space. So I'm sure they'll make room for everyone in here to participate in yoga.
You see, Ms. Suzanne, I mean, the Commonwealth said, okay now. All right.
It's actually fun and calming to the students. So it might be calming for all of us too.
So how the students, how do they engage in yoga? Is it well received, or?
Oh, they love it because they know how to do the monkey and the.
I have no idea what that
It's different positions. They're taught. They have a certified yoga instructor that provides us with videos, and the teachers. It's a part of the curriculum. And also the good thing about it is it's aligned to our Mississippi Beginnings, which is the curriculum we use in our pre-K classrooms. So, for instance, we're working on the family. This is our unit 1 in our pre-K classrooms, the family. So all of the activities that they do in yoga is aligned to the family.
So does that positively reinforce education or impact their academic achievement?
Most definitely, because we know that we have to, and it piggybacks on what Mr. Pearson talked about, starting at an early age with teaching our kids how to diffuse the situation, control their anger and their emotions, and addressing those social emotional needs of the students. And then they go home and talk about it with the parents. So it's really, really fun cooking. We had some pictures on there too where they went home and they baked sweet potatoes. I know Coach Fan loves sweet potatoes. He used to bring us a couple of them out to the school. But they're exposed to healthy eating. We have a culture of fast food in the Mississippi Delta, and especially with our children. And so it exposes them. And I'm sure Ms. Titan would probably be happy about it too, since the kids want to know why they have to always eat healthy in the schools.
Any other questions or comments, colleagues?
Ms. Gary, can you demonstrate some of those yoga?
I don't have a mat. You can't do it without the mat, Mr. Brooks, but as soon as they begin, we're going to make sure that Mr. Brooks, Ms. Rimmer, we're going to make sure that he's...
Make sure Ms. Montgomery is
Ms.
present.
Montgomery too.
I'm
Miss-
gonna take the pictures.
Ms. Brown and Ms. Rim are going to be there to make sure they get plenty of videos and pictures of us doing yoga. Board members too.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Gary. 11.6, Mr. Brooks.
11.5.
I apologize. 11.5.
Approval of the facility use request from Edmund Starsdale Sr. Any questions?
Colleagues, are there any questions? Seeing none. Now 11.6, Mr. Brooks.
Approval of the facility use request from Delta Area Association for improvement of schools.
And that would be this auditorium, correct? Yeah, okay. Any questions, colleagues? Seeing none. 11.7, Mr. Brooks.
Approval of student transfer requests.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none. 11.8.
Approval to release a student from GLCSD.
Questions, concerns, colleagues? Hearing none. 11.9.
Approval of school fundraiser.
In regards to the fundraiser, Mr. Brooks, the one, I'm looking at Amanda Elder right now, and maybe Ms. Thomas can chime in. Does the school receive those funds and turn them in? Particularly, I'm looking at the tailgating. And what are our check and balances as it pertains to that?
Last year, I think they went out and marked the spots and counted the spots. I think safety did it, and then the schools collected the money. They received it in each individual, and then they brought the money to us. We provided them a receipt, and then we made the deposit.
So the school brought the money to you?
Yes.
So my question is, based upon that, if I have 10 spots hypothetically, and I say, well, Attorney Palmer, you just pay me and I'll give you spot number 10. If nobody goes out to see if number 10 is being used, what are our checks and balances?
To be honest, it really
Yeah, I want you
isn't
to be
any.
honest.
It really isn't any,
Yeah,
because the only thing I can go by is what they bring in to me. So I think maybe since safety did it last time, maybe they can verify the spots based off of what is given. And I'm not even sure when they give the receipts to the person that's paying if they actually list the spot on the receipts, because we don't see those.
Okay.
Do we not have a policy?
I believe we do have a policy as it pertains to school fundraisers, as well as money management. So, Attorney Palmer, is that something you can check on for us for the next meeting, and maybe Mr. Brooks, your administration, maybe discuss some different checks and balances that can be put in place? Right. And we're not suggesting anybody is taking anything, by no means, but we just want to make sure that everything aligns accordingly. Any questions, other questions, colleagues? Mr. Brooks, 1110.
Special Education Homebound Services.
Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. 1111, Mr. Brooks.
Delta Health Alliance MOU.
So, Mr. Brooks, do you know if this is a new MOU or just a continuation?
I think it's just a continuation. I'm pretty sure it is.
Questions, colleagues? Eleven, 12, Mr. Brooks.
Approval of the Save the Music grant.
Mr. Brooks or Dr. Coleman, I think last year was it Amanda Elsie or Ms. Wentz that participated, and that went pretty well. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Questions, colleagues? All right, Mr. Brooks.
MOU for parents of public schools.
I don't see the,
MOU?
I don't see it.
What page is it on? It's not included. Oh, they haven't sent it. Okay. Are you expecting that they'll send it? So, Ms. Abraham, if she receives it prior to our meeting, would it be okay for her to go ahead and send that to us?
That's not
Okay.
good.
Can you do that? You'll follow up with them? Okay, thank you. 1114, Mr. Brooks.
Approval of dictionary donation.
Questions, colleagues? Hearing none. 12-1.
Approval of the Juvenile Detention Center manuals for 2023-2024.
And this is what you had to email separately. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. 12-2, Mr. Brooks.
Dropout prevention plan.
Remember, you had to email that one as well, or is it included? What page? That's page 165, colleagues. So, Mr. Brooks, I guess it's for Dr. Coleman and Ms. Wentz. It's just not a plan that we have, we're gonna put on the shelf. It's something that we're gonna implement and go by.
No, sir. The information in there is current data that Ms. Johnson presented.
Okay.
It is a requirement. It's a state requirement.
Okay. Questions, colleagues? Seeing none, 13.1, Mr. Brooks.
Personnel recommendation job description.
And I'm trying to get to that point, Mr. Brooks, on this iPad, it kind of restarted on me. But I do believe in my preliminary review of it, a position for athletic worker for LaFleur County High was included. I'm not certain if that's still on here. I'm trying to get to that page. But my concern is the previous athletic worker, I believe resigned in December of 22. Which means we've gone almost 5-6 months without an athletic worker at the school. Was there any reason?
No, Mr. President, we did some research, and the board did approve an athletic director for the board. He's been working.
Oh, the athletic work, okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Dr. Bailey,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like for us to, revisit 13.1, and not just jump to 13.2.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I apologize. All right. So, colleagues, on 13.1, I believe is the job description included, Ms. Rimmer, on this? Okay, yeah, so the job description is included for your review. I have asked Dr. Moore if she would, as the vice president, to kind of look at a potential timeline that the district or the board could utilize in our search for a superintendent. Of course, if the board votes during the meeting on Tuesday, that position would be advertised at that time. And of course, Dr. Moore will reach out and receive feedback from all of the board members as it pertains to that potential timeline. Again, we do recognize that we only have a few days remaining between now and our next board meeting, but please expect to get an email from Dr. Moore as it pertains to a potential timeline. Anything you would like to add, Dr. Moore?
Just know that the timeline, colleagues, will be subject to changes and adjustments.
Thank you for pointing that out. Now 13.2, are there any questions about 13.2 or questions about 13.1 as well? Hearing none. 13.3, Mr. Brooks.
GLCSD salary schedules for 2023, 2024.
So, Mr. Superintendent, are there any changes, or does this schedule or the salary scale kind of mirror, for the most part, what has already been approved previously?
I think there are a few changes. Are you still with us, Ms. Griffin? Yes, she left. I think there are a few changes, but very few.
Well, if you can, and if it's okay to the board, if those changes can be noted and maybe a separate document sent, or when the packet is released for the board meeting, where the board can identify what was changed.
I don't think you can see them.
Ms. Wentz, he not talking about that.
This person here, if you want. This is 7. So colleagues, is that sufficient where once the administration, they're able to get with Ms. Griffin, if there are any changes, that information will be highlighted and provided to us in our board package?
Is our first salary scale approved for the year?
For this year?
It is for everything except for those administrative scale. The administrative scale got approved back in March.
Okay. Before,
And that's page 233, Ms. Thomas? Page 233?
17.
The one that's on 233.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? And again, on page 237, Attorney Palmer, I think this is where our policy may certainly come into play when we're looking at these years of experience, in addition to other areas where years of experience have some type of impact on the salary that those employees receive. 13.4, Mr. Brooks.
Special education additional pay.
And it appears that in the bold is your justification for the pay. Colleagues, are there any questions regarding this? And are we actively searching to get these positions filled potentially, or you just, I think it said something had been advertised since May, and we just haven't had any luck.
The ones we're talking about here are people that we had an employee to take a different position.
Okay.
And her salary was used. Some of these people took portions of her job, so we're getting them additional pay.
Okay. And that pay comes from that salary?
That salary.
Okay.
That salary.
Any questions, colleagues?
It's all in there.
No questions. 13.5, is that correct, Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Okay.
Lead teacher supplements.
May I inquire as to how the lead teachers were identified?
These are your most experienced teachers, and they're responsible for training the novice SPED teachers. They also have an additional workload to include training and additional work during the summer.
Okay. Colleagues, any questions? All right. 14, Mr. Brooks.
Monthly financial report.
In regard to the salary scales, did you take a look at the salary scales?
No, ma'am.
And so to date, we have not seen the salary scale for 23, 24.
That's it.
Okay. So how will the salary scale impact our monthly or our finances for the 23-24 year? Can you tell me that? I know you haven't looked at it, but can you just?
I will need to know first if it was any changes. I would need to know first if any of them changed, because I'm not sure if anything changed on any of them. I know the teachers and the teacher's assistant look the same, because that's the one that I presented to Human Resource from last year, because it didn't change for teachers or teachers' assistants, but I'm not sure about the other ones. I have to look at them and compare them from the one from last year and this year.
Okay, Dr. Bailey, the question was asked in regard to the salary, since we have arrived at our budgeting report, our budget report. Has she viewed the salary scale, and if we approve this scale, where would it put the district financially? And doing a comparison from 22-23 to 23-24.
And I don't know what your response was, but I believe while we were in executive session, there was some discussion about some transfers into some positions, and if the district could absorb those costs, because I don't think that there were quote unquote completely new positions per se. It was more so that some salaries were increased because of additional workloads. Is that correct, Mr. Wood? And I know you couldn't say at that time because we didn't know what our allocations would be, but more than likely the district would be able to meet the request of the interim superintendent. That stands true? No?
Are you asking about something new or?
No, all the positions that are in here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we discussed that, and most of those increases was coming out of federal projects. We talked to Ms. House,
Okay.
and she assured us that the money was there.
Okay, all right. So I apologize, Ms. Thomas.
Dr. Moore, we had Ms. Griffin was prepared to talk about that, answer your questions, but she had a family emergency. She's in the hospital in Memphis now. So we'll get that information for you.
I appreciate that. I just don't want to, I'm looking at the titles, job titles. And, we're entering into a season in our district where we need to be a little bit more financially sound, fiscally. And so I just want us to be safe, for lack of a better term, moving forward with salary scale revision.
Ms. Griffin.
Ms. Griffin, if you can hear us, you're muted. That's what it's showing on our end. Go ahead, Dr. Moore.
Salary scale revisions, any increases. I just, and this is just coming from me, I just need for us to really be careful moving into 23-24 school year with salary scale increases. Because if we're asking for a bond issue, we need to show where we have been fiscally responsible for the funds that we do have, federal and state. And that when these types of documents are presented in regard to salary, that all parties or all the inner departments have met to discuss numbers, whether increase, decrease, or if it's going to remain the same. So that keeps us, we don't know where we're looking in regard to fund balances. I do know we still have reconciliations going on in our, under our budget, financial budgets. I just would like for all parties to have discussions before we move. We want to move safely into a, move safely with this monthly financial report and these, the funds, our district funds, district funding.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Dr. Bailey?
Yes, Ms. Griffin, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to address the salary scales. I just want the board to know that none of the information was new that was presented to you tonight. These were only scales that at one point in time the board was using. I noticed that no scales had come before you to be adopted, as a whole. The increases that you see that are presented tonight were actually approved by the board almost 4 months ago with the previous administration. So there were no increases, given to you in that salary scale. All it was a total package that's being completed, for you. Those were scales that were given to me that had gone across the board, and they were given to me by the previous personnel director as well as the business manager.
So why is it coming back before us?
It's just coming back in a total package. It was like bits and pieces were taken before you, but I can honestly say that I could not see where transportation scale was adopted by you for this fiscal year. but that's a scale that you have used previously.
Well, if the transportation scale is the only one that we haven't adopted, that should probably be the only one that comes before us. Just consider, just to consider, Mr. Brooks, just considering, I just don't want us shuffling. If we've already approved this, it should not have come back before us for approval again. Just maybe transportation if we haven't approved it.
So to your point, Dr. Moore, I definitely understand Dr. Moore's point. And now, Mrs. Griffin, I'm not opposed to you providing me with all the documentation. I appreciate knowing where we are. But I do believe that in providing the documentation, maybe when a recommendation is made, that recommendation is specifically for transportation. If you're saying that that is something that we have not approved at this time. But again, I appreciate all the information that you've shared.
Yes, sir. So are you saying that there's no need to present a salary scale every year?
No.
That's not what we're saying. You add it every year, Ms. Griffin. But I will speak with Mr. Brooks, myself and Dr. Bailey to ensure that what needs to come before us, if it has not come already, I don't think we need to, indulge in do-overs. Because it muddies the water. For me, it muddies the water. I can't speak for my other colleagues. But for me, if I recall a salary scale coming before us, Mr. Brooks, then I just, I don't feel like we should be approving another.
I was under the impression when I was told to create a salary schedule that one hadn't been done in the district in years, and it was outdated. So I assumed, instructed Ms. Griffin, my other colleagues, to come up with a salary schedule for the district, a new salary schedule. That's why we have this.
All of this, okay. So to that point, Ms. Griffin, you're saying that what is presented in the totality of this packet, nothing has changed, and in essence, potentially the board does not need to act on everything, only on the transportation piece, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, so Ms. Remember, if you get time, can you just kind of double check to make sure that we have approved, because I know we've approved a couple salary scales, some revisions, and I know Mr. Brooks presented maybe like a central office salary scale for us as well. And again, I can't speak to us not having something that is inclusive of all the positions, but I'm gonna defer to Ms. Remmer. As Coach Fant says, the minutes speak for the board. Any other questions, colleagues? Is that all, Mr. Brooks? All right, so we have no need for consideration of executive session at this particular time, but again, it remains on our agenda. This will conclude our work session. Everybody have safe travels home, and thank you for being with us.